Hi, I'm Kareem and you're watching Oversliced. Today I'm going to show you how I created the model of Charminar, which is a historical monument in Hyderabad, India, using Blender version 2.8 beta. We will create a low poly model of Charminar, which will make it suitable for 3D printing. As with recreating any real life structure, we first start with looking at some reference images. The Charminar is made of the main building with 4 towers, and on each tower there are 3 sets of balconies, a dome on top of each tower, and then a spire on the very top. There are also 2 passages that cut the building from front to back and left to right. Start with the default cube, position it so that the base of the cube is at 0 on the z-axis. Add a cylinder with 12 sides for the tower. Position the tower on one of the corners. Scale the cylinder first in XY and later in Z. Scale the top face of the tower in edit mode in slightly. Add a UV sphere for the dome, scale and position it. It is good practice to name your objects so you can track them easily. Add a cylinder for the balcony. Scale and move it into place. Selecting the balcony, go into edit mode. Create a loop cut towards the bottom of the cylinder. Select the bottom face of the balcony and scale it in about halfway. Now you have the makings of the first balcony. Go back into object mode, duplicate the balcony, raise it and scale it in slightly. You now have your middle balcony. Duplicate it again and raise it and scale it to make your top balcony. Now we'll add the spire on top of the dome. Select the dome and from the object menu, snap the cursor to the selected object. Add a cone, scale and position it above the dome. Our tower is almost ready. Only thing left now is to apply Boolean operation of union on tower with the balconies, dome and the spire. To reduce the clutter, let's move the balconies, dome, and the spire objects to their own collection and disable the selection, view, and render options on them. Select the main cube and, in the edit mode, add 3 loop cuts and align them with the lower balcony on the tower. Add a 4th loop cut slightly above the top loop cut. Select the faces between the second and the third loop cuts. Switch to the top view. Now scale slightly in XY to pull the faces out. Now we have the balcony on the main cube corresponding to the balcony on the tower. Select the faces between the top 2 loop cuts and scale them to 0 in Z to flatten them. With edge snapping turned on, align the edges on the balcony on the main cube with the edges on the balcony on the tower. Now we'll create the terrace. Add a loop cut on top of the balcony on the main cube. Select all the faces above the loop cut and the top face. Scale slightly inwards in XY. Now with the top face selected, inset slightly and extrude the face down in Z to finish the terrace. We'll duplicate the towers using the mirror modifier in X and Y and selecting the main cube as the mirror object. Now we have 4 towers. Use the Boolean modifier with union operation on the main cube and the towers to combine them. The only thing that remains now are the passages. We'll create the passage along the X-axis first. Add a cube to the scene and scale it in Y to the width of the passage, and in Z so that it's slightly larger than the desired height. Position it in Z so that it is slightly below the Z0. Scale it in X so that it is slightly larger than the cube's length. Add a vertical loop cut through the center of the passage. Use the 2 top faces to shape the passage. Use the Boolean difference modifier on the main cube and the passage to cut out the passage. It appears that something isn't right as the modifier doesn't seem to take effect. This is in fact due to bad geometry that was introduced when we combined the tower with the cube. This can be easily fixed by selecting and deleting the bad face and creating a new face in its place. The Boolean modifier should now work. Inspect the model to verify. Now rotate the passage in Z by 90 degrees and repeat the Boolean modifier. You should now have 2 passages cut out of the model, and the model should look like it is ready for 3D printing. Save the model and export the STL file. Depending on the slicer you use, you might have to take additional steps to clean up the model before it can be 3D printed. I am using Slicer Prusa Edition version 1.41.2 and it looks like the model has some issues. There's a big gap in the main cube where the balcony should be. In Blender, in edit mode, I selected everything and first tried to clean up loose geometry. This can be done by going to the mesh menu, selecting cleanup and then selecting the delete loose option. And while it looked like a few loose vertices and edges were removed, the issue wasn't fully resolved. Next, I tried the fill holes options in the cleanup menu. This did the trick and the slicer was able to generate 3D printable G-code from the exported STL file. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, consider subscribing to the channel and leave feedback in the comment section below. Until next time, goodbye.